All good? I think some of you were there in that interactive session, interactive session में थे. And then I had actually given a brief outline of the syllabus. ठीक है. आज तो first day है तो we have started a little late because time ले रहे थे बच्चे तो थोड़ा सा 10 मिनट 15 मिनट का delay था. From tomorrow you'll all be on time. 11 o'clock dot we will be beginning our class. For the first week and all, we would slowly begin in the sense that a couple of hours we will be having. Gradually, as you get used to listening to what I am saying and as you understand what I am speaking, you will also pick up speed. Then we would gradually reach out to that 3 hours session whatsoever. What we will be doing in today's class is that there are a few things. One is a little more detailed discussion of the syllabus we will have. अच्छा last time हम जब मिले थे in whatever workshop and then live stream जो हम interactive session किए थे, I asked you to memorize the syllabus and come. You remember? I asked you to memorize the syllabus and come. And that was the first work that I had given to you. ऐसे works बहुत सारे देंगे. So what I will be doing is first we will have a detailed syllabus discussion and then I will talk about, this is very, very important, your note making. This is going to play a huge role in your preparation in the future, how exactly to make a note. We will also be talking about what books you will have to refer to, what is the other literature that you will have to go for, and then we will look into the schedule of the completion of syllabus, meaning how exactly I am going to fix up various topics in the syllabus, and yeah. I would be introducing the very first topic which is anthropological theories. This is a basic layout of the class today. Now coming to, most of you have your syllabus document, right? आपने material pick up किया होगा, otherwise at least a syllabus page might be there with you if at all you had come for the workshop. Workshop में syllabus page दिए थे. So we will start with that. This understanding of a detailed syllabus is very, very important because if I'm connecting things across the syllabus, you should know from which part of the syllabus I am doing. And generally what happens is that because this is going to be a new subject for you, as most of you might be doing it for the first time, I am really not sure how many of you might have done that in the university, etc. So first about a week or so would be like a frictional thing, because the acceptance of the new subject should actually come into your minds. How many of you are engineers here? The rest of them are non-humans. I mean, we have two categories, engineers and non-humans kind of. Medicos, proper medicine या फिर dentistry वगैरह है ना? हाँ, आप dentistry, proper medicine, okay. And what about the rest of the humanity? हाँ जी मैम. What did you study? जी बेटा क्या कह रहे हैं? हाँ. So you start off with the first topic whatsoever, then we will talk about what anthropology is and things like that. Sir, basically your syllabus of UPSC anthropology, some of you actually have joined saying that you are going to write state PSCs etc. State PCS में अगर syllabus का कुछ फ़र्क है, you can approach me personally and then accordingly I will guide you how exactly to tune UPSC preparation with your PCS thing. As most of you see your syllabus, we have two papers out there, paper 1 and paper 2. I am giving here a broad categorization which I have already given in your introductory session. इसमें दो sections हैं. One section I mentioned this as general anthropology, which is largely consisting of socio-cultural and some other things are there, we will talk about it. This will be from your syllabus chapter 1 to 8. Baki traditionally we call it biological anthropology, which is from chapters 9 to 12. When it comes to paper 2, we have one that is called Indian society, where you will be doing chapters 1 to 5. Then we have tribal anthropology coming from 6 to 9 chapters. ठीक है? I mean, even before I analyze the syllabus, describe the syllabus for you, I will tell you how to write a note, because अभी आप start करोगे note writing. So I will tell you how to take a note. How many of you are really unhappy with the handwriting, with your own handwriting? जिसका भी handwriting का problem है, we will see one of these days and we will guide accordingly क्या करना है, ठीक है? And some of us might be thinking that we are good at our handwriting, so भी दिख जाएगा eventually, because I am traditionally a school teacher, so I keep looking into the notes of the students also. Randomly we will check the notes and then we will see how to, because ultimately whatever you do आपको exam में clear करना है, whatever you are going to do. So I will first tell you about note writing. आपके note writing में दो चीज़ होंगे. एक है the discussions that we would be doing. Discussions, and from the discussions you would be taking the running note. Second thing will be formal dictations. These things you will write in the classroom, ठीक है? And most of the students do not have this habit of either making margins or writing the page numbers. Most of us do not have, and most of us also do not look into writing the index. Index is very important for your books, because you are not going to finish with one single booklet. On an average you would be writing in a decent student, I mean, would be writing about 1,000 pages or so in the course. I mean, the batch that we have recently concluded, there are boys who wrote up to 1,400, 1,500 pages also. The others were wondering, मेरे तो 200 ही है, तुम्हारे 1500 कैसे हो गए, kind of. So it all depends on how meticulously you are trying to write. Because you see, when I give descriptions, I give examples, etc. Every example I try to see to it that that caters to some segment of your syllabus or the other. So when we give stories and narrations, these are not bedtime stories for you so that you can sleep off in the class, but they are something, they would be useful for you at some part of the syllabus or whatsoever. And generally what happens is that जहाँ पर डिस्क्रिप्शन बहुत ही डिटेल्ड हो, कभी आपका डिक्टेशन में whatever I might have discussed in a great detail in the discussion, that I might not be giving in the dictation, and vice versa. So both of them would be necessary for you. And problem ये हो सकता है कि when I go for discussion for a long time and then particular time I am giving for a dictation, how exactly to maintain a note, that is going to be one issue. Maybe perhaps you can have two different pens that you might be using for writing your maybe perhaps this may be your running note that you are writing for a particular topic, and for the dictations you try to maintain a specific color so that you are very much clear what exactly you have written by yourself and what the teacher has given to you. And it is very important that margins are to be there, because margins are where I might be giving good lot of homeworks. Sometimes I would try to give specific kind of definitions and various other things that go into. And margins also help in adding things from your other study materials, because you will not be writing the whole thing again, rewriting the whole thing again. See, when it comes to your sources for the study in back home, apart from these things, you are being given the printed books which are constantly being revised from time to time. So आपका क्या होगा कि you are going to take the discussion oriented note and then dictation you will write. Back home you would be studying from the printed books. And it is not simply that based on what is currently being published in various journals, etc. We will be adding certain PDFs to your portal, so that from those PDFs also whatever vital information is there, that is where this particular place would come into utility for you. And index also, because you are not going to follow a chronological way of studying, like from chapter 1 I would start to 12 and things like that. So once you write those 1200 1400 pages, जैसा कि 4-5 बुक हो गए, किस बुक में क्या है, you really have to remember that, and the index there helps. I mean, this you make a practice on a daily basis, कौन से क्लास में कौन सा टॉपिक हुआ था, and the things like that. Are you there? With that I would start the discussion about your syllabus. Now when it comes to paper 1, we have the first segment which we generally call general anthropology. The term general anthropology caters mostly to chapter 1. Don't worry that you don't know about anthropology and you are looking into the syllabus. पहले syllabus देख लेंगे, then we will try to understand what anthropology is. This has several sub-components therein. It starts with a topic such as meaning of anthropology, scope of the discipline. You have things like, you keep glancing through your syllabus and you are writing also in your book. Branches. You have topics such as relation with other disciplines. So those of you who are sitting in the class, don't, if at all at any point of time you are not able to understand anything, please raise your hand, you ask your question. Don't wait till the end of the session. Don't think that I would be disturbed or something. I love if you interact, if you ask questions, so that we can give better quality, better discussion, if at all you come up with questions. And don't be mechanical in the sense that ठीक है जो तुमको पसंद आया तुम बोल के चले जाओ, बाद में हम देखते हैं हमको क्या पढ़ना है, kind of a thing. But be interactive and try to enjoy the whole process of learning. That is the bottom line. Relations with other disciplines. You have topics such as primatology, evolutionary anthropology. Evolutionary anthropology. If you are looking into the syllabus, you find topics such as Darwin's theories, Darwinian evolution, post-Darwinian studies. Are you able to look into the syllabus, sir? Post-Darwinian theories and various other small components are there, concepts are there like Cope's law, Gaussian rule, and various others. Primatology is something that is very, very crucial for your exam. So as you are going down in your syllabus, you would also see there biological evolution of humans, biological evolution, where you would see various fossil men. I am trying to say out certain names which you will figure out in your syllabus. There are names such as, do you see this name? Australopithecus. Do you see this name? Anji sir? Several other names you will find, people like Homo erectus, etc. So you have evolutionary studies, biological evolutionary studies, where you would find people like them under fossil studies. We also have, when you go to 1.7 specifically in your syllabus, there is something called cell biology, related concepts. Though questions do not come from cell biology, we would try to give an overview so that people who are coming from non-science background, you would not feel that you are left out, and then that's how things are. This is one. And you have others like cultural evolution. In cultural evolution, you find topics such as dating methods, various other cultural evolutionary stages. Various other cultural evolutionary stages. You see those names there, like several lithic ages are there, starting from the early Paleolithic ages to the Iron Age cultures, etc. This whole thing forms part of chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the biggest of the entire syllabus, which has variety of components within it. One that is archaeology, one that is biological studies, one that is sociological studies. So it's a beautiful combination of all of them. And generally we don't expect the student, we don't advise the student to start from here. We don't advise you to start from here, because you will understand the meaning of the subject, the scope of the subject only when you are completing the entire thing. So towards the end of the course, in the last couple of days, we will be taking up that particular topic, meaning and scope of anthropology. Then it would make some sense to you. Otherwise, you are simply trying to memorize and keep it there rather than trying to understand the whole thing. Now let me take you to the other part of your syllabus. If at all you see chapter 2 of paper 1, this deals with one of the very core aspects of anthropology called cultural studies. Cultural studies. Here we find some of the very interesting concepts which are very essential for you to understand entire anthropology. If at all you give a glance at it, you have topics such as culture, civilization. Do you notice there? You have concepts such as society. As you go down, you will find terms such as cultural relativism. Do you find that? Do you find that? So several such terms are there in the 2.1 and 2.2 that go a long way in understanding various other things, because this is here we find a good lot of anthropological vocabulary. When I say vocabulary, I want to recommend something. There was one series that I was doing, anthropology through vocabulary. Up YouTube पे देखिएगा, certain terms are there, and as and when I discuss new terms and I upload there, I will let you know. you will have an opportunity to go through, write the definition, what examples I have given there, anthropology through vocabulary. Vocabulary building is very, very important, sir. That's what I was telling in your first session also, that from whichever topic I start the syllabus, initially it will take time because I have to build your vocabulary. Without understanding the vocabulary, it is very, very difficult to understand the subject, because the same term may be used differently in different subjects. I will give you a very common example that can be given. Look at your syllabus, chapter 3, paper 2. Chapter 5, paper 2. Chapter 5, paper 2. You have this term called westernization. You find this term westernization. Westernization. This looks to be a very common term. Even in a day-to-day life, we tend to use westernization. But when we use in the common parlance the term westernization, that might have an altogether different meaning when compared to while you are using this in the subject of anthropology. So if at all I am using westernization in a common day-to-day discussion, what exactly we mean by westernization? Copying the Western. Who is Western in that context? Europe and America. So we are not looking at the geographical West. If at all it was geographical West, entire Africa is there towards our West. Entire Middle East is there to our West. So we have a limited understanding. When we say westernization, maybe we are looking at the Americas, maybe we are looking at some part of Europe, but then when it comes to this particular definition, this particular term that is used in Indian anthropology, westernization has a specific meaning. Because it is who is giving the term and all that stuff we will be doing when we come to those classes. But in the scope of anthropology, we see that westernization is largely the impact of the British. I mean, that brings us to a very small segment of the entire European influence or the entire American influence. So even while you are writing the definition, you would mention that same thing. I hope you understand. So a term, when it is used in a particular discipline, it has a different meaning when compared to when it is being used in the other discipline, number one. Secondly, the same term might have different meanings when we are using in different parts of the same subject. I repeat what I said. The same term, the first example that I have given is, the same term might mean differently across the different disciplines. But then within the same discipline, the same term can have different meanings based on in which context you are using. Okay. For that, right now I am not going to give examples, etc., because you will have to still go into the syllabus and kind of things. That is how we will be building your concepts. Or several of you have approached me before joining saying that बहुत सारे definitions होंगे, उसको कैसे memorize करेंगे and kind of things. Believe me, several things you will learn without knowing that you are learning. It's like falling in love with her. You don't know that you are falling. There is always a fall in love. That's a different story we will be talking about. You won't rise in love, you'll always fall in love. And that's a deep fall actually, where you will not be able to get up. The same thing here in the anthropology also. You will fall in love with so many terms, and then without knowing you will learn the definitions and you will be amazed at the way you have learned. I take up this test of memory after a week or so. We will try to figure out from you. We will try to get the names of the thinkers or various other terms that you have learnt in the last 1 week, and you would be really amazed and thinking that you are already an anthropologist. Within a week's time you become an anthropologist. So we will see how the journey is. So don't really be bewildered by the scope of definitions, etc. We will try to see to it that we will not load you so much. Based on what is necessary, I would try to give you the definitions and some fashionable ones, some contemporary ones, so that there is a refreshing note in your answer compared to somebody who might have studied anthropology a couple of years ago. Same thing you should not be doing. You are young people when compared to those who have already given a couple of attempts. So that freshness we have to maintain in terms of examples, in terms of definitions also. Okay. Now, coming to the later part of your syllabus, you have very interesting topics. Some of you might have taken this subject because of those topics only. Sir, don't mind me asking, married people here? Any married people here? Any boys, I mean men who are married? Jaldi shaadi kar lo so that you can help me out in the class. Sir, I seriously mean it. Because these days boys are finding it difficult to get girls. Maybe the kind of sex ratio problems are there, and I'm also going to help you out, boys especially, in getting your marriages done. You can tell your parents also to approach me. No, that's not a proper business that I do, but then no, I would help out. That is a philanthropic work that I would be doing. Because we see that service आने के बाद भी सदियों तक शादियां नहीं हो रही है. There are real issues there, and I'll give you one tip. This is the first life tip I am giving, because your seniors must have told you. Subject तो पढ़ाएंगे अलग बात है, life tips मिलेंगे आप join कर लो kind of. This is the first life tip I am giving. You'll have to pay me extra for that. Most of the life tips are for the boys. Girls को थोड़ा थोड़ा देंगे, आपका भी turn आएगा. Generally क्या है ना कि you have to strike the iron when it is hot. You understand? जब आपका service selection हो जाएगा, don't keep on juggling through the resumes of the girls that are reaching you. ये मत सोचना कि इससे बेहतर मिलेगा kind of. And be contented, sir. कहीं ना कहीं एक comma full stop तो होना चाहिए. Every time you don't go on put the fill in the blanks kind of a thing and keep on taking the resumes, because the stock changes every year. And people look for the latest products in the market, latest versions in the market. So जितना जल्दी grab the opportunity, बाद में पता चला I don't know what kind of you have marriage. Or keep a smiling disposition. It's a different story that most of you are behind the mask. आप yawning कर रहे हो या फिर murmuring कर रहे हो या फिर कुछ कर रहे हो. That's a glorious opportunity that you have got. No, अभी आपको हाथ लगाने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. No, when you are yawning, you need not behave when you are yawning and kind of. But then have that smiling disposition. आप enjoy करो subject को. Subject तो आता रहेगा, UPSC भी आएगा आराम से. जब उसको आना है वो आएगा. हम subject सीखेंगे. So don't look at me with that anger, intimidating look. कि तुम हमको पढ़ाने आए हो kind of a thing. You know, some of you are already looking at me like that. So, kind of. How many of you are in the joint families? Oh, good. How is the joint family journey? How is the joint family journey? How often do you fight? You don't? Every day? Good. We will see on what topics you find and how you resolve the issues. These are the 3 topics that are there in chapter 2, family, marriage and kinship. I'm not going to talk anything about it. I know you'd love to talk about this, but then बाद में बात करेंगे. You have chapter 3, which deals with what is called economic anthropology, economic systems and how the economic subsistences have evolved. there are interesting topics there such as globalization and impact on indigenous societies and economies. Certain interesting topics are also there like substantivism. We will see what they are, and formalism. I am doing this exercise of reading through the syllabus because you will be hearing new terms. For the first time you might be hearing them. So एक बार that familiarity has to come in your mind that okay, I heard this particular topic. Exam में भी वैसी होता है. The moment you see a familiar term, you are rejoicing that you know the topic. But you only know the question. Answer बाद में आएगा. Now many times it happens. आपको लगता है कि ये मुझे पता है, but then question you know, answer you don't know. Every year I release lists of important questions etc. लड़के ले लेते हैं questions. Questions memorize करेंगे, answers भी तो चाहिए. We will see the kind of answers. This is chapter 3. You have another one. Evolution of political systems. Evolution of political systems. Some interesting terms you will find there, such as social control. As you are sitting today in the class, what are the social control mechanisms that are operating on you?
Religion.
Okay.
Police.
Abhi, police, okay. So that you don't misbehave in the class? मैं पुलिस हूँ. I wish I have that डंडा in the class. जो स्कूल में डंडे खाते थे, खिलाते थे, kind of a thing. अच्छा, जब आप I mean, it's a general kind of a question that I am asking. Is there anything in your life you always wanted to do, but you did not do because of the fear of somebody or because of the mockery of somebody? You badly wanted to do. क्या था? See, anthropology classes are like, these are the classes to open up. Whatever ethical, unethical things are there, whatever innermost desires and dreams are there, those are the things that actually are vented out. And you feel so much we kind of a thing. Only with we people we try to share out things. So this is that fraternity where you say out things. Now, itna rigorous preparation hai aapka, such a strenuous one that sometimes runs into a couple of years or more. So much of stress is there. In this stressful environment, stressful study patterns, you should have some place where you vent out things. This is a forum where you vent out. You are what you are, kind of. Now you tell me, what was it that you badly wanted to do, but you are stopping yourself because वो देखेगा, ये देखेंगे, ये कुछ करेंगे, ये कुछ बोलेंगे, kind of. You answer this, you'll love the classes in the future.
So going out during night without fear, single.
Beautiful. क्यों जाना है रात में?
Enjoy peaceful night.
Yeah, true. अच्छा, इसके बारे में भी बात करेंगे. और आपका नाम क्या बेटा? आशा. हाँ. और हाँ, please, last benches, I love you. हाँ? कौन रोक रहा है? कोविड? पैसा तो आएगा. I mean, that's not weird. I am looking for something that is weird. Something that weird thing that you wanted to do. See, shouting at the police. और एक answer. Then I'll go to the other ones, other syllabus. कुछ और बताइए. क्यों बच्चे? बाजू में एमएलए साहब का लड़का बैठा है तो ठीक नहीं लगेगा. Not all. अब ये तो खैर आपका फ्यूचर बताएगा, है ना? आप उनके साथ हाथ मिलाओगे या फिर थप्पड़ मारोगे, काइंड ऑफ. नहीं, मुझे जो चाहिए वो नहीं मिल रहा है. द क्लास हैज टू बी स्पाइसी, juicy.
And I wanted to try drinking because I just thought like क्यों पीते इतना ज्यादा?
एक्सपेरिमेंट करना है, एक्सपेरिमेंट, दैट इज कॉल्ड एक्सपीरियंशियल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी। लास्ट ईयर का जो क्वेश्चन था, एक्सपीरियंशियल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, तुम क्यों पीते हो मुझे पीकर देखना है, काइंड ऑफ ए थिंग। बहुत सारे लोग वही समझते हैं कि तुम शादी करके खुश हो, मुझे क्यों नहीं खुश रहना है, और उधर वाला सोच रहा है तो आ जा, तुझे भी पता चलेगा क्या है। यू विल हैव द लास्ट स्माइल ऑन द डायस ऑफ मैरिज। जितना हंसना है उसी डायस पे हंस लो, दैट विल बी योर लास्ट स्माइल। हाँ जी सर। गर्ल्स का फिर देखते हैं क्या है, वी विल टॉक अबाउट देम ऑल्सो। अभी तो उनका नंबर भी कम है तो उनके ऊपर ज्यादा हम मजाक नहीं कर सकते, है ना, अभी काइंड ऑफ ए थिंग। किसका ज्यादा है? आप कौन से स्टेट से हो?
मतलब रिसेंटली जो आया था डेटा
बताते हैं, बट आई हैव माय ओन डाउट्स। कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट विथ ड्यू रेस्पेक्ट्स, कभी कभी ऐसे डॉक्यूमेंट्स देना जरूरी हो जाता है कि आपको खुश रखें, आपका कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़े। कॉन्फिडेंस तो आपका बहुत बढ़ गया अभी, है ना। वी विल टॉक एंड देन evolution of political systems. We have topics such as state, stateless societies, etc. You have the other topic called religion. This is a very personal choice of mine, as after studying theology, most of the time I feel like talking on religion. Most of the time God's presence will be there in our class, so that you'll get through your exam and you'll get that flying colors in the ranks, etc. उनका presence बहुत ज़रूरी है। Last batch we started with religion, beautiful journey actually। पहले भगवान को introduce करो, फिर बाद में शैतान को यानी human introduce करो, because we are no less than the evil whatsoever. We are bundles of evil on whom God is relying. Chapter 6. This is anthropological theory, which is actually a foundation of the entire discipline of anthropology. And for your batch, we are going to start with this. When we do this, we would be coupling this with chapter 8, that is research methodologies. Research methodologies. So these two go hand in hand. So when we introduce this in today's class, why to study theory, etc., we will see there. You have chapter 7 in between that deals with language. This was the last chapter that was added by UPSC in the syllabus. So there, a formal socio-cultural anthropology we are putting across. The other part of your syllabus, generally called physical or biological anthropology, but in the entire syllabus from 9 to 12, there are only a few segments that can be truly called biological. Right now, this entire topic is called socio-biological anthropology. That is a new nomenclature coming up, that is socio-biological anthropology. It is not a pure biological anthropology, because we try to see where these can be applied. Some people call this whole thing applied physical anthropology also. So application based thing, let me take you on that. If you see the syllabus, chapter 9 runs into several paragraphs. In a way intimidates people, but I will try to decipher what it is. We see here the introduction of genetics and methods of genetic studies. It is here we will be introducing several branches such as anthropogenetics, Otherwise, it is not necessary for us. We will have to study genetics so that we understand how in the discipline of anthropology they can be put to use. There will be several other things as a part of that. So basically, branches, scope of genetic studies. There is a continuation here of the genetic studies. You would have things like twin studies, which is always a fondly studied concept. There are things like foster studies, foster child studies. There are terms such as pedigree, you can keep seeing in your syllabus document also, pedigree studies, various other methodologies. And this continues in 9.3. So these three come under one segment, sir. 9.4 specifically deals with cytogenetics, in the sense that this is something that majorly deals with several chromosomal. Many times students enjoy this one, chromosomal aberrations. And India, in different pockets of India, we have different varieties of chromosomal aberrations that are fondly studied, and that's how. Okay. So, if at all any kind of core bioelements are there, these are the places where core bioelements are there. As you go to topics such as 9.5 onwards, so 9.1 to 9.4, you can call them core biotopics. But we will also be seeing in our class how to answer these questions. We are not going to answer in the pure biological aspect, but we will have to see in what ways they have to be answered. For example, we have questions such as, if you look into your syllabus, questions like Turner's syndrome, or one other favorite question of the examiner, that is Down syndrome. So if at all we see particular kinds of chromosomal abnormalities, a part of your answer will be about biological reasons or sociological factors that might be responsible for such kind of aberrations. I mean, those of you who come from southern part of the country, in the region of Munnar you went? You might have gone. Why did you go? Vacation. So generally when we go on vacations, we are busy doing whatever pictures le rahe phoolon phalon ke saath, and then kind of chai ke baganon mein ghoom rahe kind of a thing. But Munnar is also known for a very important NGO that is working there called Srishti. This is actually organized, run by Tata Tea Industries. They are running this organization with a subgroup called DARE. They are trying to work on the chromosomal aberrations that are prominently seen in majority of the families among the tea estate workers. Because these people belonging to particular tribe and caste groups, they are highly endogamous. You understand the word endogamy? Sir? Endogamy is what? Marrying within? Marrying within family? Within the group? In their clan only. Okay. Definition likhiye. This is the first definition I am giving. I know you'll love it. Endogamy. A culture rule that prescribes an individual to marry from within one's own culturally defined group of kins. A culture rule that prescribes an individual to marry from within one's own culturally defined group. So what is that culturally defined group within which you are supposed to marry? That varies from culture to culture. That's the reason why we have defined it as it is culturally specified rule. Not all cultures would prescribe the same group of people to marry from within. Say for example, he was talking about clan. Clan in the Hindu terminology is what? Gotra. But you will not marry from within your own Gotra if you are a Hindu. And it is not simply the Hindu, but across several other tribal societies, wherever the institution of clan is there. You understand clan? I mean Gotra meaning what? Descending from a common ancestor. Who is that ancestor? Might be a mythical person. Okay. Any of you who know your Gotra? I mean, who is the ancestor? Gotra originator? In your case, maybe Rishi so and so. But then, is it necessary that every time Gotra has to be from a human individual alone? It might be occasionally non-human also. So, a tiger Gotra doesn't mean that you are born to the tiger. But then there might be some kind of a mythological story. Write the definition of clan. Clan is a group of people. Clan is a group of people who trace their ancestry to a common mythical ancestor, that can be a human or non-human, don't write inhuman, a human or non-human, animate or inanimate, Sir, first 1 week I told you be patient. Married people know this very well. Initially you will have to be patient so that the friction would mellow down. And then you tend to get used to the friction, that's a different story. But then initially you will have to be very, very patient to understand the subject, and don't write off, don't lose hope at any point of time. Because I strongly believe in internalizing the subject in a specific manner, and for which whatever terms that I would be using in that class on that day, you will have to be clear of those terms. So clan is a group of people who trace their ancestry to a common ancestor that is mythical generally, that may be human or non-human, that may be animate or inanimate. So it is not necessary that the clan ancestor is a definite human. But then if at all you are able to clearly identify who your ancestor is, we will also have to talk about the term mythical. But then suppose you for sure know, Achha, how many generations back you can go in your, in your past, I mean past generations, and how many you can recall the names of your ancestor. Yes, your grandfather. Most of you are from patri societies, like your name, your lineage comes from your father. Anybody who is from the matri? Last batch we had one very beautiful example. No? He came from a matri based society. I mean generally ऐसी होता है, when everybody else belong to one and you are the subject matter in the classroom. Like how whenever I ask for a married person, you are the subject matter, you give us the spice in the class. It is the same case when we go to Oxford or several other universities to study anthropology, they study us. We are the subject matter. When we walk in, they are looking at us like a specimen. Like we come and give them the spice. Grandfather's name, your own grandfather, that is your father's father. Your grandfather's father, how many of you know your grandfather's father? Good. His father, ऐसे कैसे? You have a tree? I mean, that's also one.
I'm from a joint family. I'm married to a joint family. So they have a book, and my husband's grandfather keep talking about the lineage. He keeps reading the book and keeps telling us like, no.
That is what we call. That is what we call. In your syllabus, you can see this in chapter 8, paper 1. There is one term called genealogy. Genealogy method. Genealogy is where you try to trace your ancestry from one generation to the other. Thankfully, we are still in times where we know our fathers' names. I'm serious about it. After maybe a decade or so, in your application forms, the name of the father and maybe mother also will not be asked, because maybe you are somebody who came out of any laboratory. Maybe perhaps they would ask from which laboratory you came, and that laboratory would be your father or mother. Thankfully, we are still not graduating to that level where we don't know our parentage kind of. But I know, not everybody is so fortunate. Aapka naam beta? Alekhya. We are not, many of us may not be so lucky to have such kind of a practice where genealogies are maintained, going back, who was our ancestor, what their occupation was, in which region they might have lived. These are puzzling things. Some of our families, we maintain the Vamsavriksha. The Vamsavriksha, we tend to write, from which place people might have migrated and done things like that. So genealogies. I was talking about clan. Clan is something which is a group of people who trace their ancestry to a common mythical ancestor. But if it is a lineage, write the definition. Lineage. Don't make mistakes with the spellings, sir. And don't scribble. Generally we do that. If we don't know the spelling, the first letter and last letter are clear, in between you scribble. Like our medical doctors, with due respects. Lineage, write down. Group of people who trace their ancestry to a common, definite human ancestor. So don't get confused between Gotra and a lineage. When you go to the temple, he is not asking you your lineage, he is asking your Gotra. And Sagotra marriages are generally not accepted. Similarly, within the lineage, marriages are not accepted. But it may not be the case everywhere. That is the reason why endogamy is a culture specific rule, where within a particular group you are supposed to choose your mate from. Those are a couple of things. So what Srishti is trying to do is, beyond a particular limit you are not supposed to get the mate from. So within the close cousins and close relatives, if you're getting married, what could be the dangers, and then how exactly? So they're not simply trying to discourage close kin marriages, but they are trying to give possibility of employment opportunities, skill development among the people who are Down syndrome people and various other impacted people. They are trying to develop that's a beautiful thing. We will come to such kind of case studies when we go to the other topics. So 9.5 we will have to talk about it. 9.5 deals with a very interesting contemporary topic called race and racism. A very hot topic in today's global affairs, that is race and racism. It is not something that was simply there with the Germans, it is there everywhere. Are you a racist? Are you a racist? No. How do you know you are not a racist? How do you know you are not a racist?
Don't judge people on color.
You don't judge people by color. Given an opportunity to tell what could be the features that you look for in a female at the time of marriage, what do you write there? That is a litmus test actually, whether you are a racist or not. Yeah, we will talk about it. You have 9.6, where different genetic markers are studied. Interesting topics like blood group studies. There are topics like sensory perception. Sir, for the upcoming examinations, sensorial anthropology. अगर आपके friends upcoming mains लिख रहे हैं, ask them to study sensorial anthropology. Sensorial anthropology. We will try to understand there that not all culture groups have the same sense of smell, same sense of taste, same sense of sound also. For Indians, silence we really can't tolerate. We can't tolerate silence. We want noise around. But maybe somebody coming from particular western regions, they will not be able to tolerate this noise. जब आप driving सीखने जाते हो, the first thing that is taught by your tutor is to use the horn. कुछ भी हो जाए पहले horn बजाओ, so that you are declaring to the world that see I am on a rage, I am coming to attack you. No, beware of me kind of. We will see such examples also, sense of sound and all that stuff. 9.7, ecological so these are nothing biological, sir. We have huge lot of anthropological works that have to come here. Ecological anthropology, where we would see how humans got adopted, how humans got adopted to difficult ecological conditions. Difficult ecological conditions. That may be extreme temperatures, extreme cold, extreme hot, or maybe high altitude studies, high altitude living, etc. These I think 3 or 4 alone are mentioned in your syllabus, not many of them. Very cute syllabus actually. Several topics under such kind of topics have been removed by UPSC. I mean that's at that point of time it was good because not many studies were there in those respective areas. So UPSC tried to eliminate those studies where those topics where not many studies were there. This is really interesting and incredible, which you are not supposed to share with anybody else in the market, that UPSC is extra kind towards people of anthropology. दूसरी जगहों पर syllabus बढ़ाते जा रहे, यहाँ पर घटाए बहुत जगहों से, so that you don't have the discomfort. There are several other topics like ethnicity based, huge topic was there, a big chapter was there on ethnicity. They had removed the entire topic and kind of, so kind UPSC is. 9.8, the last one in that particular segment, where you would generally study epidemiology, epidemiological anthropology, very contemporary one. You see there NCDs, non-communicable diseases, communicable diseases, and various others, contemporary things out there. And we will also try to see in which region, which kind of diseases are prevalent, and how culture is responsible in avoiding specific diseases to particular people, etc. On that note, we will be talking about several contemporary researches. एक बहुत ही interesting study था on the Malaysian Buddhist monks. That study was released a couple of years ago. Malaysian Buddhist monks. You understand that Buddhists, the monks generally live on the arms of people. And when the platter changes, what you offer to the monks changes, that would have an impact on their body. And when they saw that high incidence of diabetics was happening, and then weight they were gaining, and various other related problems they were getting into, an anthropological study was conducted in the Buddhist monasteries of Malaysia. They found that what is being offered by the people to the monks has changed. Huge bottles of sweetened drinks are being given, junk foods are being offered, and then Buddhist monks, because they could not say no, or they don't want to say no, I mean with due respect, started eating and then started gaining. And that is where in one of the monasteries they had introduced a belt, and they told this has to be the size within which you will have to fit. Reject the food if at all it is junk or if it is sweetened one. And though it is like insult to the person who is offering, because in the best of your health, so they started to prescribe long walks to them, and then exercises being prescribed for the monks, kind of things, so that they are brought back to that slendered wedge-shaped bodies. Done? On that note, I will take you to another topic, that is topic number 10, which is called growth and development of people. That is where you study stages of growth. There are also topics such as human somatotypes, where the body forms are studied. This is a very interesting topic. So we will try to see the categories of people. Sometimes we are pear shaped, and some of us are proper wedge shaped. This is what we look for actually. Some of us are invisible, and those are the lucky fellows. How much ever you eat, you are there. But these unfortunate souls, even if they breathe, no, they grow like balloons, kind of. So we will have to figure out where exactly we fall. And then in the rigorous study of UPSC, these topics give us an opportunity to look at ourselves, because बहुत दिनों से, I mean ever since you might have started preparing for the exam, mirrors से शायद दूर हुए हों, and these are the opportunities where you can measure yourself. You will see in which category you fall, and then which category is prescribed for what kind of sporting events, etc. That also would be incorporated in the studies. Chapter 11, we call it demographic anthropology. Demographic anthropology, population studies. This chapter also they had pruned down heavily. This was a very huge topic. I mean, they brought it down to 3 major subtopics alone there. Topics like menarche and menopause are popularly taken in this subject. And then you have demographic theories. You have demographic theories. That's a very interesting and juicy topic. We will see how what makes people multiply in numbers. Now, Indians are an exception, irrespective of in which continent you are, in which climatic condition you are, we always have the higher capability of multiplying people. So, if we are left in Mars, only 2 people left in Mars, we populate it within no time. That is the kind of reputation we have, the genetic and biological makeup, that's how countries like Fiji, where we have been taken as indentured laborers, we grew into more than 50% and we started influencing their parliament and then we started ruling them, and that is the power we have. Every population has to have, every culture group has to have some strength or the other. We are strong in numbers and nobody can beat us out. That's how things are. And we have the other one called applied physical anthropology. Another very, very interesting area where we find contemporarily very significant topics such as forensics, applications in defense, applications in sports, things like genetic counseling, topics such as eugenics, to name a few. Whatever we have studied elsewhere, we try to apply here, and we can single out the topics like forensics, etc. Those are very happening kind of topics in today's and we will see how these are put to use. Like when we try to study about defense anthropology, we will also parallelly see from where defense equipments we are purchasing, to what extent anthropological inputs are being used in designing. Say we get aircrafts from somewhere, or guns from somewhere, or backpacks or uniforms from somewhere, boots from somewhere. When we are trying to get these things under defense agreements, what are the parameters based on which they are trying to manufacture to tailor make these things for us? That's where we would be having. And sports anthropology also, the question which I was talking about, experiential anthropology, comes from sports anthropology. Let me take you to paper 2. Are you all good, sir? You're all good in the class? You're pleasant? Sleeping, yawning? If you're sleeping, ask your neighbor to slap you. He would do it, he would do justice to that. Paper 2, sir. Don't get tired by looking at the syllabus alone. Sir, we have chapter 1, largely dealing with archaeology. This particular part of archaeology we do along with paper 1 archaeology. So that is how, when we are doing parallelly, we will be able to do comprehensively, and all the kinds of questions we will be in a position to answer. Chapter 2 is again population studies or demographic anthropology of India. This is demographic anthropology of India. So with which chapter you will study this in paper 1? Chapter 11. You will study this along with chapter 11 in paper 1. So in paper 1 you would understand the general concepts and global perspectives. When you come to India, you will see how we can use those concepts for a better understanding in Indian context. Then you have several other things are also there, sir, here, like ethnic studies are there, ethnic elements, linguistic elements. I am not getting into those very deep intricate things. We will do that as we go into the course. पहले ही दिन में सारा कुछ सीख लोगे, कल से नहीं दिखोगे. So I'll have to, chapter 3. This properly deals with Hindu social system. Hindu social system. Whatever religions are there in India to a certain extent or the other are influenced by the Hindu concepts, Hindu society and living patterns, etc. And hence it becomes very, very essential for us to study Hindu society, where we see very interesting concepts like Varna, caste, you have ashram, you have concepts such as Purushartha, various other things to name. And this is one jumbo topic in paper 2, like how you have chapter 1 in paper 1 and chapter 6 also in paper 1. Here you have chapter 3, where from huge list of questions come. So what we will be doing is, when we visit particular chapters while we are doing your syllabus, we would go check with the whole question papers, we will see how many questions have come from that particular chapter in a year. That gives us an idea of where to focus, because we are not here to be expert in every small topic that is there in the syllabus. It's true that we will try to give you, those small things also, but then when it comes to a focused way of studying, suppose from one particular segment 100 marks are coming, 150 marks are coming out of 500, that's a huge chunk. So this is also such a chapter where from not less than 4 or 5 questions come on an yearly basis. So something that you cannot really neglect. So somewhere about 75 to 80 marks out of 250, that's a huge sum. If you haven't studied this, better not write the exam that year. It's as simple as it is. Hindu society. You have chapter 4, where you will study evolution of anthropology in India. How anthropology evolved and how. In fact, when we are starting to study anthropological thought, chapter 6, paper 1, we will be partially covering this also, because chapter 6 in paper 1 and chapter 4 in paper 2 are linked together. Because when outsider, the Europeans are studying cultures from across the world, one of the very prominent areas of study was India, or Indology. Indology, you understand this word, right? Indological studies were a part and parcel of early anthropological studies. So this also comes up there. We have chapter 5, where interesting other areas are there, like village studies. True that several villages are disappearing or getting amalgamated into the urban centers. So what is happening to village studies? Are we still interested in studying villages? We will see. Interesting other phenomena like westernization. Do you see these terms there? Yes, sir. Please answer, don't sleep. Sanskritization. कभी भी क्लास में आपको लगता है कि हाँ ये थोड़ा ऊपर से जा रहा है, या फिर this is very sleepy topic, you just raise hand and say sleepy, I will do something else. ठीक है? Because there are so many things to talk about in this subject. And sir, my ultimate goal in the class is, of course, to give you UPSC rank. That's a different story. Second thing is to properly entertain you, keep you alive, awake in the class, so that that's very important. 3 hours and with that gripping attention in the class, that is quite difficult. You might be able to understand this with the kind of movies that you might be watching, and the success of the director is to make the audience sit in the class. If that's where he fails, आप बार बार बाहर जाओगे, 4 बार वॉशरूम जाओगे, 5 बार पानी पीने जाओगे, 10 बार मुंह धोने जाओगे, kind of, but still you'll be sleeping. So that is where I try to use different kinds of tools. सिर्फ ये काम नहीं करूँगी, I will not be dancing in the class, but then we will do everything else possible so that you are properly entertained. So my ultimate task is to keep you entertained, because subject तो सीख लोगे कहीं से भी, है ना? ऐसा है. Subject तो कहीं से भी सीख लोगे, but whatever you remember at the end of the day is what are the side things that you have spoken in the class. आज का टिप तो याद रहेगा ही लाइफ लॉन्ग, है ना? Various other concepts there. we will be doing topics like secularization. Is it there in your syllabus? Look into your syllabus and tell me. Is secularization there in your syllabus of chapter 5, paper 2? There are topics like desanskritization. Do you find there? Yes? No. But these are the topics also we will be doing, like topics such as tribalization, detribalization. All these are related concepts we will be doing. Your syllabus talks about tribe, caste, continuum. You also see names such as great and little tradition. Do you see there? Great, little tradition. So there are certain concepts that are obviously mentioned in your syllabus. Certain latent things are there, like secularization, desanskritization, tribalization, detribalization, whatever. Throughout your subject, at many places you find the names of the religions also. You go to chapter 3, paper 2, you have some segment there related to religions. You have Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Jainism impacting Hinduism. You also have at other places, like in chapter 5, paper 1 also, you have huge lot of religion. Let me take you to chapter 6. See, chapter 6 and chapter 7 largely deal with tribal issues, tribal problems. There is also a mention of OBCs at one place. There is also a mention of scheduled castes in the specific context of constitutional provisions. There are terms such as social change among tribes, but when it comes to social change, he tries to write social change in the British times, post-British times, and things like that. There is a lot of repetition there. We will try to rearrange the syllabus when we are dealing with these topics. And as we go into chapter 8, you once again find topics such as impact of various religions on tribes. As you get into chapter 9, you get very other interesting topics such as things like nationalism, communalism, regionalism, and all that stuff. You will also find role of NGOs, role of anthropology in tribal development, and all that stuff. Whatever contemporary things are there, all of them are bundled in chapter 8 and 9. We will also be seeing interesting other topics such as what are the problems of anthropology, meaning what ails anthropology. What ails anthropology, what is the current relevance of anthropology, whether it is useful or not. All that we will be talking about in the last topics there. That is your syllabus. I finished. You can go. I finished my syllabus. When you take admission, many students ask, when will you finish? You tell me, when should I finish? आज तो खत्म हो गया. I try to finish to the heart's content, so that examinations requirements are met with. That is very important. Sir, in your booklet, that is, there's one booklet that will be given to you, question answers, old questions booklet is there, sorted out questions. In that booklet, towards the end, I have added a short list of recommended readings. You have the book with you, ma? There is a list of books that are given here. ठीक है? कुछ भी मत खरीदो, देखो. you will have to see the names of the books, because names of the books are necessary in order to quote in your exam. What you will have to buy, I will tell you at a later point of time. Abhi to names important hai. What are the names of different books that are there? Suppose there is one name called Miller and Weiss, or there is a thinker called Dr. D.K. Bhattacharya. There is one book of Bhattacharya that I have quoted. So these names of the books becomes important for you to better present your answer. So you will also be learning in the classroom how to write an answer as if you have read the book. Examiner को ये लगना चाहिए कि आपने पढ़ा है book को, but then you haven't read. We will try to do that, because see, when you have joined the program, if I ask you to buy the entire list of books, there is no use joining the course at all. वही book खरीद लेते. But the problem with the subject is it is so dispersed in so many books. It is not there at one particular book, and then how to upgrade and all that kind of things we will be taking up in this. जहाँ तक syllabus का सवाल है, any other question that is there so far? I mean, are you able to understand my language? That's the first thing. Grammar का कोई problem तो नहीं है? Slang whatsoever. हो सकता है local slang में बात कर रहे हैं तो definitely somebody who might have taken admission from Bihar, he will not be able to appreciate my because I don't have that kind of a slang. Being in anthropology, one thing you will have to learn is appreciate the diversity in culture. Appreciate the diversity in culture, so that you will not judge people कि तुम्हारा slang ठीक नहीं है. So many tongues are there in the world. Every tongue you cannot speak. English itself has so many tongues, so many dialects. What is a dialect? What is a dialect? Local. Who is answering? Raise. आपके mask के अंदर से हाँ. Regional variation within a language. So dialect is regional way of speaking a language, or maybe sometimes the meanings of certain words also are different. Rules of grammar may be different. That is a dialect. And what is a language? What is a language? वो मैंने सुना. I did not respond. It means that I don't want to respond to that answer. So, specific rules are there. Language follows specific rules. Rules in the sense maybe grammar rules are there. Specific words mean specific things. जैसे इसको हमने bottle बोला. Why do we call it a bottle? Because it's a bottle. Why do we call it a bottle? To recognize. A particular group of people named it as such, so that you can recognize. This is a very beautiful thing actually. Man was created by God, and man had to define things, name things. And when you come to the rules of grammar, you don't question rules of grammar. When you want to learn, say German, I always say this, sir. If you are somebody who joined a course in Hyderabad, if you come from outside to Hyderabad, and people who are native of Hyderabad, I mean nearby areas, you have this opportunity of learning a foreign language. You have AFLU here, CFL, English and Foreign Languages University. It gives you an opportunity to learn at least one foreign language. I love German because I love Hitler. German is a very, very powerful language, because even if you are speaking in a loving tone, it's like you are beating the other person. And you know, every language has got its own way of delivery. German is that which uses the thrusting of the tongue to the palate, upper palate. When you do that, you spit out. So if you are not spitting out while speaking German, you are not speaking right German. A person who is sitting in front of you has to use the wipers, kind of. It's as simple as it is. So language, we would be learning in the discipline of anthropology to be respectful towards the other cultures. So don't write me off saying that aapka slang theek nahi hai. I mean, kind of, I speak in my own slang, you might be speaking in your own slang. I mean, within a few days, you will understand what I am trying to speak. ठीक है sir. Anything from your heart so that I can start my class. I mean, I have started technically, but the syllabus per se. Make it a habit to stop. To stop in the sense that you have to ask some questions and stop. And whenever I ask a question, you respond. Whether it is right or incorrect, that doesn't matter. I recommend you to give incorrect answers only so that we get an opportunity to correct you. ठीक है sir? We have this, I am only introducing this to you, anthropological theories, that is the topic we are beginning from chapter 6 of paper 1. And I never do the syllabus में ये 4 नाम हैं, ये 4 नाम के हमने 10-10 sentences लिखा दिया, and then my job is done. We will not be doing that. That is never the way of doing things. That does not help you in the exam. पहले आपको समझना चाहिए, because always what is necessary is to have a very strong conceptual foundation, so that whatever questions that are going to be asked in the exam, there's a lot of application based questions that are coming up in the exam. So in order to write those answers, you have to be really strong at your concepts. अच्छा, आज आपने कितने terms सीखे, कितने definitions सीखे? What are the terms? Lineage, clan, and endogamy. Beautiful, endogamy. Those are the 3 terms that I have. As you go, you will learn many more on a regular basis. अच्छा, ये काम आपको करना है. You will have to always have a rough notebook with you. ठीक है? Because I told you I am a school teacher. I was a school teacher, so rough notebook होना ही होना है. And in the classroom we will try to recall things. जो recalling करते हैं, definitions, concepts, names of the thinkers, you will keep writing. You will try to recall in the. I mean, when I am saying this, let me put a word to the online students also. अगर online में आप सुन रहे हो तो don't try to do the class in bits and pieces. वो luxury भी होता है, that is a drawback in the online classes also, that आधा घंटा आप सुन लिया, आधा घंटा नहाते देख लिया, आधा घंटा खाते देख लिया, बाकी जो भी करते हुए आधा घंटा जो देख रहे हो. Don't have this kind of a thing. There has to be a proper concentrated way of working. Do the whole thing at the same time. Do not pause the kind of a lecture. I mean, अभी class में आप मुझे तो pause नहीं करोगे, but same thing you are not going to do in the online mode also. Try to see to it that you try to stick to the time. जो भी time पे आप बैठना है class पे, उसी time पे बैठोगे, and do the entire thing at the same time. ठीक है? जो ऑनलाइन बच्चों के लिए few other things are there, the guidelines etc. I will try to give towards the end of the class today. Let us start with the origins of anthropology and why theory is necessary. When we say origins, we are trying to go to the past. So that leads us to a question: is history necessary? Why should we know our past? It's not simply our past, we are trying to study here the past of anthropology. आप भी history भी पढ़ते हो ना? General studies, you study history also. And one of the very core topics of your general studies, and you spend a lot of time. And did you question why should I study this? he says not to repeat the same mistake. एक बार शादी हो गई तो दूसरी बार same गलती मत करो, kind of a thing. To know what is happening in the present, why it is happening in the present. Yep. To compare the past and the present and do what?
To know what happened in the past and are we still doing the same, or are we improving on the things, or are we not improving on the things?
How the society gives us a sense of identity as a community.
Study of history gives a sense of identity. Beautiful. It gives a sense of, हाँ कुछ बोल रहे थे, evolution. From time to time, how we are changing, how we are evolving, and this is what is more important, that is taking a pride in what we are. History tells us who we are and what we are, where from we have come. That is one of the ethnic identities it gives. And most of the time we have to understand this, that if our past was glorious, we would try to take a pride in that. Just imagine our past was not glorious. You do not want to talk over it. You do not want to harp over your past. And maybe that is where the study of the past becomes very, very essential. The topics that we are going to study in anthropology, some which are caste-based studies, some which are tribe-based studies. Many times we see that the tribes try to harp over the past because they had a glorious past. But just imagine among the caste groups which are lowly, they do not want to glorify the past because past was not at all glorious, and that's how things are. Nevertheless, here anthropology is a past, at the same time theoretical development of anthropology, they go hand in hand. And at the outset, let me say this, the term anthropology has hundreds of meanings. There are so many meanings attached to this term. And there are several organizations such as Royal Anthropological Institute, Royal Anthropological Institute of London, that has been maintaining documents such as notes and queries in anthropology. That is where we try to see for different meanings the term anthropology has. I repeat what I said. The very first chapter talks about meaning of anthropology and what anthropology means. Different people try to give different meanings, and several meanings, several definitions are enshrined in that particular document called Notes and Queries. That is a document maintained by Royal Anthropological Institute. And why are we talking about Royal Anthropological Institute? We will see this. The earliest people, meaning the kind of the colonial masters, especially the Britons, they are considered to be the givers of the discipline of anthropology. In each class that we are going to do from now, the term anthropology will be understood from a different perspective. It is like, trying to describe an elephant blindfolded. You have so many definitions that are going to come, so many ways of understanding and utilities of the discipline, apart from giving you the score in the exam. Now, when the Britons were ruling across the world, they came in contact with people who were different from them, who looked different, who spoke different, who lived differently. And this difference has actually attracted them to know what about the people whom they are governing. And that is where the earliest understanding of the peoples or the culture groups, the new culture groups, which were actually having this kind of a very bizarre, very surprising and very shocking kind of culture. Achha, was there any such occasion in your life where you were shocked by some cultural practice of your friend or some region that you have visited? Some of you, I know, you have left your jobs overseas and came. First time when you might have traveled overseas, were you shocked at something? or when you came to Hyderabad to attend this course, are you shocked at anything? No?
Yes, ma'am.
क्या था?
Ma'am, as a Muslims, ma'am, we generally don't worship snakes. But in somewhere in one area, my maternal family, they are worshipping snakes. So that was another thing for.
Something new. Why on the globe you are worshipping snake? I think snake was the earliest cult in Homo sapiens. If you see the terracotta figurines of the prehistoric times, snake was the earliest terracotta figurine that we find in the animistic world. So maybe perhaps either they were trying to worship, or they were trying to guard themselves, so that this is what is a dangerous thing. Don't know. Okay, worshipping patterns. What you worship may be anything else. Preparation of food. Can you elaborate on that? What you were shocked at?
Like the way they prepare like ingredients and the names they call like different.
Names the language हो गया. Maybe the kind of food preparations. अच्छा, ये एक series of videos है, आप देखिएगा YouTube में. I will give the title to you. We are what we eat. You felt like being a cannibal anytime? You felt like being a cannibal anytime? Why not? There is a social control and hence? Or you find it weird? There is a very interesting term called gustatory cannibalism. Gustatory cannibalism, that is a feeling that the other person would taste good. अभी आप बाजू में देख रहे हैं. The feeling that the other person would taste good. Anything else that was shocking for you?
But there was a practice in a travel in a village which I can say.
Hand mic होगा sir, gun mic होगा. हाँ.
It's a village, and these people they burn around their stomach in order to treat jaundice. That was a typical practice which I have.
हाँ जी मैम.
I've seen Nepal, females usually are elder than male.
You don't like it?
No, I've seen it.
Her voice is very audible sir. हाँ, फिर से बताएं मैम.
And they do lead their house.
They don't?
Like they are the bread earners.
हाँ. आजकल बहुत सारे females वैसे ही हैं. They are the bread earners. They are doing the पुरुषार्थ. हाँ. That is shocking. Yeah, they don't leave their house in the sense that he comes to stay with them.
Yes. It's that.
Okay, that is one thing which we are going to study in our subject called matrilocal rules. Matrilocal residence, where the males shift their residence after marriage. The girl will not come, but the boy goes. And that means a lot. Because if you are shifting your residence, you are not powerful. You understand? और बताइए, और क्या shocking चीजें थी?
My ancestors told me that men do not do head bath on Tuesday and Friday.
पानी नहीं था. No. Why? ठीक है. Some mythological story. ये word mythical भी सीखना है आज. Anything else? हाँ जी sir, please. That's not shocking. That's not at all shocking. I don't think you were in India earlier. Are you an Indian? If you are Indian and you do not know what caste is, you are not a human. Anything else? Anji sir.
Inside the institute, they have tied the aloe vera upside down. Rooted it and tied upside down.
मुझे नहीं पता ऐसा किए क्या. I will ask them to put it right. I will ask them. I will ask them. Maybe that is to fight the evil eye. I'll ask.
To avoid Drosophila melanogaster.
I don't know. I'll have to figure out whether any scientific reason is there or any. You asked? Huh, what did they say?
Some microbes and all will be spent from it.
शायद मुझे नहीं पता. I'll have to learn from them.
Burial practices, fractional burial. I have heard some.
Fractional burial. काट के बरी करो. ऐसा था?
They expose the dead body in closed open area and then vultures like some eagles and vultures will
Sir, burial practices is something that is going to be a very other interesting topic in our classes. I love burials. I love graves. I love bones. Not to eat, but then kind of. Because archaeology was one of the areas that I studied. I really love talking about the stone evidences and bone evidences, etc. अब इतने जोर से stretch मत करो यार, please. थोड़ा सा. That is called social control. This is one very weird thing you would want to do. Stretch the whole body in the class. But then teacher देख रही है, इसलिए अपने आप को रोक रहे kind of. This is one very beautiful example. ठीक है sir. So there would be many occasions like this. Whenever you, I mean when I am asking all this is not a fun time that I am doing with you. But then whenever in your life you get this time and opportunity, or the time comes where you suddenly become judgmental, and suddenly you start to look at them in that weird way, that you have this kind of a living, that is where the subject helps. Do not try to judge the other person. That is what the subject gives. You would be a much better human being by studying the subject. You will try at least to understand the perspective of the other person. Most of the time it is very difficult. How many times you must have told to your friend, or the friend must have told you that you are not understanding me. Your father must have told, your mother must have told, your siblings, your the so-called underlined friends, they must have told that, see, you are not understanding me. Or you must have told to your the so-called partner or whoever it is that you are not understanding me. This is a common thing. But then step back and try to see the other's perspective. Why is it that? Why is it that the other person has a particular kind of a preference? That is where we don't try to be judgmental. You have this word called cultural relativism in chapter 2, paper 1. Cultural relativism is that term that tries to help us out to understand culture from their perspective, not to judge from kind of. Now, when the British were actually ruling the whole world, they came across these very surprising and shocking cultures. They started to study those cultures under the term culturology. That was the first name of anthropology, the study of culture. But later, gradually, this term had come of anthropology. Anthropology is generally seen as a subject that studies man in all perspectives across time and space. That is one of the very formal definitions, sir. It is the study of man in all perspectives across time and space. Across time and space meaning historically you are studying spaces in different regions, in different cultures, you are trying to study man. I repeat the definition. Anthropology is a study of man from all perspectives, meaning you have seen your syllabus, right? You have seen the political anthropology or economic anthropology, you have seen familial anthropology, you have seen several of them. So it is the subject that studies man across in different perspectives across time and space. So you study historically, you study across the planes, across the geographies, across the cultures. So I have in this particular definition used two things, that is you study across time, meaning you study historically, and you study across the cultures, meaning you study comparatively. So anthropology primarily was a historical study, was a comparative study, and it still is a historical and comparative study. Do you compare? Do you compare yourself with others? In what ways you compare? What are the parameters or what are the occasions when you compare? That's a relative term again. What is good looking, what is beautiful is a culture specific thing. In certain cultures, having a huge body is something that is desired. In certain cultures, you have to be as thin as possible. In certain cultures, you should not have, the female should not have a huge feet, and hence they try to wrap up the feet so that the feet become smaller. In certain cultures, you are not supposed to have a wide head, and hence you chisel the skull so that you have a very beautiful narrow head. You understand? What else you compare? Looks. Of?
How can you think, thinking perspective?
और बताइए what you compare? Intellect. Food habits you compare, or literally everything. Your economics, your politics, your everything that you live. I mean, man primarily is a person, is a species that constantly compares. We cannot live without comparison. Why do we compare? Is it to improve? Is it to judge? Or use it to categorize? Unintentionally you judge. Hanji, who is answering? To feel ourselves better. Okay, beautiful. That's what I was looking for. How much ever we say that we are not racists, how much ever we say that we are not judgmental, humans primarily are ethnocentric. Ethnocentric meaning thinking high of one's own culture. Ethnocentrism is nothing but thinking high of one's own culture. There is no culture in the world. There is one thinker by name Haviland. Haviland says, there is no culture in the world that doesn't feel ethnocentric of itself. You might say that they are cannibalistic, you might say that they are primitive, you might say whatever, but then no culture thinks low of itself. Every culture thinks high of its own self. That is ethnocentrism. When you are saying that you are thinking high of your own selves, you naturally are considering others to be lower than you. Naturally you are trying to judge. It is not simply that. Homo sapiens is known for anthropocentrism. This is one concept that is yet to come in your exam. Anthropocentrism, that is humans thinking high of themselves. We think high of ourselves. We think that we are the highest species. These are certain small things that I am talking about. Now let me talk about the importance of theory. So the discipline started from being culturology. Then gradually it was started to be called as anthropology. Now I will talk about this thing, trying to show you the syllabus, etc. But then you see, as far as this particular chapter is concerned, you will not have any other books of reference, but then for certain topics we will be giving you the PDFs and handouts, etc. Most of it you will try to understand from the classroom. See, if at all you have come, most of you have come from the background of maybe engineering, etc. For you these things might look very awkward and odd. Why is it that you are studying now? Somebody had written these things in 1800s, the 19th century they have written. Why should I study now? But then what we will see is, based on what was spoken at that point of time, on this everything else depends. You have to bear in mind something, that see, if one person had given a theory, we will see what theories they have given. When you are trying to put across your theoretical perspectives, you might have made certain mistakes. See, theory building is not simply a part of any social science. Theories are there in the scientific disciplines also. If Einstein was there, Einstein was giving his theory. And how was he giving a theory? He comes up with some kind of a hypothesis. Every scientist comes with a hypothesis. And to prove that hypothesis, you conduct a research. Whether that is laboratory or otherwise, you conduct a research. Once you have conducted a research, you will understand whether your hypothesis was correct or not. So, giving these hypotheses even before experimentation is not a factor associated with social sciences alone, it is there with scientific disciplines also. So, do not try to look down upon social sciences because they do not have a laboratory. In that sense, social sciences are much more difficult to handle when compared to the scientific disciplines, where you have a set laboratory, you have certain things that are predictable. But see, humans are highly unpredictable people. Do you agree? Humans are highly unpredictable, and doing a research on humans is very difficult. And you cannot bring laws to prove that, see, they are valid for all humans across the world. Are you following what I am saying? What your likes, dislikes, or how you behave, when you behave, and things like that. I will give you one example, one case, you try to answer. There is a girl who is trying to carry her luggage, take a huge luggage, suppose airport में या फिर roadside, huge luggage, बड़ा सा luggage है. She has to carry. Who will behave in what ways? How a French behaves, how a Briton behaves, how an American behaves, and how an Indian behaves. You understand? अच्छा, आप Indian हो. What would you do as a male there? A girl, a very beautiful looking girl, struggling to take her luggage. What do? 4 of your friends are there, chit-chatting as usual, roadside. And the girl is struggling hard to carry the luggage. What would you do? Yourself, beautiful smile you have got, black t-shirt. What's your name? Huh? Manideep. Yeah, Manideep. Tell me, what do you do? Beautiful, sir. So, will you let your friends help her? You will see. A typical Indian out there. You will push your friends away. And you would run at the highest levered speed that you have. You grab the luggage, put it on your head and take. If possible, the girl also. And then you. That is not the way every other nationality would behave. If it was the French, he is not bothered. He would just look and he would pass off. How much ever beautiful the girl is, he is not bothered. Maybe if he was the Briton, he would try to take the help of the neighbor, and both of them would try to help out. Britons are known for the kind of elegance in their work, the kind of formal behavior that they have, the rules that they have. They are not like let loose people. There are so many rules under which they live. So much of formality that they try to, customs they try to follow. That kind of a customary life you don't see in the Americans. That speaks volumes in the way they speak, in the way they eat, in the way they sit, they stand, everything for that matter. You might have read about the Queen Elizabeth's life and after, what would happen when she dies. People have written so much about her post-life, who would declare, how the whole thing, and then the kind of drills they conduct, mock drills. If she dies, what we do, kind of. Would you accept it? You are all alive sitting here and your mock drill of your death is happening. Maybe because of the strength of those mock drills, she is still alive post 90s. You know? That's how things are. We are actually dealing with the humans that are highly unpredictable. We are not the same everywhere. I'm not talking about different individuals and different cultures being different, but you are the single person, but you behave differently in different circumstances. Look at the syllabus, chapter 7, paper 1. You have one topic there. Social context of use of language. Social context of use of language. You speak beeps. When do you speak beeps? When you are angry, when you are furious, they come with oceanic speed. When else? Just like that, irrespective of anger, when do you speak? Ma? When you are with friends. And where? Private. That's beautiful. And when you are with father, your own father, you would not get the B of the beeps. You are so formal, so, not simply a good boy, but much more than that, if any superlative is there, well behaved kind of. All the goodness comes to you. But then there are certain moments where your actual self comes out. That's what is social context of use of language. You try to behave yourself, you try to be different. The same individual behaves differently in different contexts. So we are actually dealing with an individual that we call rational, but we are the most irrational species on the earth. You understand this? And the discipline of anthropology deals with this species, that is irrational human species. Got it, sir? And how this irrational human species is understood across time, that is the narrative in theory. What happens is that at one point of time, was there any technology that you saw in your life becoming obsolete and people, and it got faded off from the active social life? Pagers or cordless phones and pagers, walkmans, अम्मा फिर से रेडियो हम सुन रहे हैं ना, FM, fax machines, VCRs, telegram. Yeah, telegram, that was a very beautiful one. I gave the last telegram also. They gave that, there was one particular date when they said that this is the last day where you can give telegrams, kind of telegram. And several things. See, if at all somebody was talking to you from 1950s, 1940s, their technology was different, their level of understanding was different, the things that they were speaking were different, and hence the theories they were writing were also different. So with every generation, with the passing generation, passing technological influence, etc., how you are theorizing, what you are speaking, what your lingo is, that keeps on changing. And that is, but then it doesn't mean that what happened at that time was irrelevant. If fire was not discovered by Homo erectus at that point of time, I don't think all these inventions would have happened. So even if that invention looks to be very trivial to you in today's times, it had its own relevance, and hence the earliest theories are also important. On that note, I would want to start off with this man called Charles Darwin. You know him? Charles Darwin. Darwin's influence was profound on the emergence of anthropology. What was the book written by Charles Darwin? Origin of Species. पूरा नाम बताइए. Origin of Species through and Principles of Natural Selection. Many people do not know the later half. We only speak of the first one, Origin of Species through natural selection. That is the complete book that he had written. Remember, sir, biological and sociological realms are so closely interconnected, you cannot separate them. Throughout the discipline, this is what is going to happen. All your answers are going to be a combination of biological and sociological elements. Now, when Darwin was giving his ideas of evolutionism, we are going to see in one of the other classes what had happened prior to Darwin, because of which he came up with this idea of origin of species and what evolution, etc. Darwin had influenced all other fields, sir. And Darwin gave this catastrophic blow to the idea of creationism. See, anytime when a new theoretical construct, new concept comes in, the existing socio-cultural phenomena, they get affected. And that was the time when the church was brutally beaten by this particular concept called evolutionism. Most of the religions, people who believe in religion, they believe creationism, that God had created this thing. But then he came up with this idea of evolutionism. And this is also going to be one of the very interesting areas that we are going to talk about, creationism versus evolutionism. Are there any proper theologians who believe both in creation and evolution? We have to talk about that. Now, Darwin had given this idea of evolution that had challenged the existing belief systems, existing churches. Suddenly, churches woke up. Because if at all this man has that kind of an influence, the age-old ideas of creationism would be devastated, and maybe perhaps the church and in the process God would lose the significance and role. You understand what it is? So that might look to be a very small thing, but that one idea can actually give rise to the spark there. It may give rise to that devastating effect. So people started to argue. People became so very conscious and cautious, creationists especially. They wanted to fight out because nobody was questioning. This man started to question. He questioned, how is it that creationism was true, whereas I can prove evolution? So, see, if at all every human birth has a purpose, now all of us would be looking for our own purpose, right? I don't know what your purpose is. In the class of religion, I will try to inquire with you what is the purpose of your life. If a creationist has to talk about Darwin's purpose of life, is that Darwin was giving a new opportunity to creationists to prove themselves. That was a magical purpose for which Darwin might have come. Now, from Darwin, people started to take this idea of evolution. Darwin was talking about biological evolution, to be more specific, organic evolution. I will tell you what organic evolution is to those lesser mortals from engineering background. We will do that in some other class, the topic of organic evolution. But then, when Darwin was giving this idea of evolution, even people from sociological studies, they also got influenced. And that is where we see that series of theories and schools of thought coming up in anthropology. First, we will take a list of them. Okay? Evolutionism, that is classical evolutionism, that was the earliest school. When I am writing more or less in a chronological order. Diffusionism, British, German, Austrian diffusionism, historical particularism of Franz Boas, and then American diffusionism, functionalism of Malinowski, structural functionalism of R.C. Brown, structuralism of Levi Strauss and Edmund Leach. लिखिएगा, लिखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. This is only half of anthropological thought. Learn the spellings properly. As you get used to the terminologies, etc., we will pick up speed in a couple of days. Franz Boas, Malinowski, R.C. Brown, Levi Strauss. Which country? Why? How did you? Because genes is coming from America. Levi Strauss was a French anthropologist. Edmund Leach. So as you keep writing, let me say this. When a thinker gives his theory, he tries to do his research and he tries to conclude that he was correct. The people who come after him, the successors, they try to find mistakes in the hypothesis, mistakes in the research methodology, mistakes in the way he was concluding. So various other, so you try to point out the mistakes. When you are trying to point out the mistakes of the earlier thinker, you try to, based on that, you try to give your own theory. And in that process, you also do the same mistakes. I mean, not the same, but then you do your own mistakes. You have a right to do mistakes, you will do that. And your successors would come, they try to point out, they try to give their own theory. And that was how the theories actually develop one after the other. Sometimes what happens is that some of the earlier theories, they would be revisited by the successors, and then in a modified manner they would come into picture, like how Darwin's ideas were criticized, but then there came somebody called post-Darwinian, neo-Darwinians. Neo-Darwinians actually they gave a new light, new color, new explanation to Darwinian ideas. Similarly, we have here neo-evolutionists, like how when evolutionism was criticized, after some time people would revisit it. Culture Personality School, some names I have written, I am reading out for your comfort because spellings and pronunciations are important. Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Gardiner and Cora Dubois. She has to be called Bo, Cora Dubois. D is a small letter there. Pronunciation is important. For Indians, we make use of every letter that comes in front of our eyes. Don't call her Dubois. Cora Dubois. Neo-evolutionism, child, that's not a spelling mistake, sir. Child, Edmund Leslie White, that's the full name of this man. Edmund Leslie White. Child is called Gordon Child. Gordon Child, Edmund Leslie White, Julian Stewart, Salins Service. Don't worry how to remember them, memorize them, etc. Don't memorize at all. You will remember. You have the others, Cultural Materialism by Marvin Harris, Symbolism by Victor Turner, Schneider and Geertz. Geertz is completely called, his full name is Clifford Geertz. Cognitive theorists, Tyler Conklin. Postmodernism, that is the other one. There were other schools also. We used to have post-structuralism and neo-structuralism. Thankfully or otherwise they were removed. They have to come up with those new titles. I am only looking for UPSC to modify its syllabus, increase the syllabus a bit and make it a little more tougher so that teachers will study. Teachers have to study. आजकल ना स्टूडेंट्स टीचर का इंटरव्यू लेते हैं. The other day somebody walked in. He asked, why should I join you? Don't join. See, you have walked in to talk to me. Why did you come? I did not invite you. You came. And you are asking me, why should I join you? Several other people are teaching. I don't know what to say. If you want to join, you join. Otherwise, no. Only thing is that I always tell my junior teachers that you study first. In the Paleolithic age, whatever notes you have written as a student, जब तुम्हारा कोचिंग चल रहा था, don't try to take class based on that archaeological thing that you have been preserving for several decades. You will have to upgrade yourself. Now that's how things are. ठीक है sir? Now I have divided this chapter into two parts. This part we call, this whole thing we call classical anthropological theory. This is called classical anthropological theory, and this part we call neo-anthropological thought. And in between comes this one called culture personality school. That is something that is via media between the classical anthropological thought and neo-anthropological thought. Any female names in the list? एक तो हमने बताया कोरा दुबो, she I have called her, so obvious. और कुछ होंगे? Ruth Benedict, good. Margaret Mead, how do you know? Margaret है इसलिए. When I am asking this question, I am very clear why I am asking this question. Gender of the thinker is very important, sir. जैसा कि अभी ये previous slide में था, Herr Malinowski. Male or female? How? Female or male? Who says female? नहीं बताएं, मुझे भी नहीं पता male है female, आप बताइए. How do you come to a conclusion whether it is a female or male? Because you don't know those names. अभी Ruth ठीक है, Ruth you know that female, Margaret ठीक है, but Malinowski, a proper male sir, a male anthropologist. मैं इसलिए बताती हूँ कि जब आप आंसर लिखते हो, I have this heart attack. Sometimes you change the gender. The entire answer will be written she, no, her, she, kind of. Examiner क्या करे बेचारा? So you will have to be mindful of that. Till the time of culture personality school came, not many named female anthropologists were there. Female anthropologists came into picture after the encouragement by this man who is called Franz Boas. Now, let me take you to certain things. Sir, when we talk about evolution of anthropological theory, when we talk about evolution of anthropological theory, what we see is in most of the discussions of anthropology, even in your syllabus also, there is always a division based on nationality. There is always a division based on nationality. There are American thinkers, there are British thinkers, there are German Austrian thinkers, etc. It's French thinkers, etc. Somehow anthropology right from the beginning divided people, divided thinkers based on nationality, maybe because it was the Briton who gave the discipline to begin with, who had this inherent tendency of dividing people, and thinkers also are divided on the same lines. So right now the take home point for today is that this is a discipline that was given by the British to begin with. Later several other people also started to take up, but among all these schools there was one school that did not emerge from Britain. All of the schools have emerged from Britain in some form or the other. There was one school that came from outside Britain, that was culture personality school. That was an American given school of thought. What they are trying to do in all these schools of thought is they are trying to study cultures. All these theories are different ways of studying cultures, All these theories are different ways of studying culture. Some people studied from evolutionary perspective, some people studied diffusionary perspective, certain people studied from the functionalism, etc. All that we will be talking about in the next class. Today I do not want to trouble you much. First class है तो ज़्यादा dose नहीं देना है. Should I continue? Or you want me? बहुत हो गया आज के लिए बोले. We will be starting in tomorrow's class. But are you having your planner with you? I will tell you what the planner means. आपके जो booklets होंगे, if at all you have not still received, you can make a. अच्छा उससे पहले और एक भी बताना था, ठीक है ये देख लें. This is a cover page. आपको ये मिला, कुछ और मिला मुझे नहीं पता, मुझे तो उन्होंने यही दिया है पुराना वाला. ये प्लानर के अंदर बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं. आपका क्लास कौन सा है, विच पेपर you are studying, which topics you are studying, from where you will have to study, what are the homeworks that are given to you, what is the status of the work that you have done. This will help you. एक तो है आपका इंडेक्स, ठीक है. दूसरा है द प्लानर. प्लानर will help you to identify quickly, to revise or to study in the future which topic is being taught in which particular class, so that it would, and then this will also be a cross check for the teacher whether the teacher has completed the syllabus or not, है ना. So if at all any particular topic is not there in the planner, it means that अच्छा teacher ने नहीं पढ़ाया, we know this, and then we can catch hold of the teacher. See, I am giving you weapons also to catch hold. और एक आध चीज़ें थी जो बताना है. On a daily basis, I generally upload this thing, Anthropology News Diary. Immediately, you may not be able to use that. On sosin classes website, I do this Anthropology News Diary. उसका link आपको मिलेगा. If at all you are joining this group, आपको टीम वाले ज्वाइन कर देंगे इसमें टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में, so that on a daily basis you will be given the link. From there you would go and figure out what all topics are there. Initially आप देखा करो, and towards the end I am generally writing the list of questions that were asked based on what was there in on that particular day. And एक आध question भी practice के लिए देते हैं. You keep looking at them, you keep downloading and keeping in your database, so that over a period of time when you deal with those topics in the classroom, you will be in a position to write answers to them, etc. ठीक है, ये करना है आपको. And those of you who did not pick up books, etc., आप pick up कीजिए. And as long as I am teaching anthropological theory, आपको printed material की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. So if at all you are in the online mode and you haven't still received your books, don't worry. Or yeah, as such. Okay. So those of you who have the planner with you, I am making it, I am writing for you. Others, once you pick up, you can. Class number 1, we have actually given the discussion of the syllabus discussion. So meaning paper 1 and 2 syllabus discussion हमने किया. We have introduced anthropological theory. ठीक है.